Hi everyone, welcome to my first Zwift race analysis video. This is a look back at a race I did a couple of weeks ago now. It was the first race of the current round of the Zwift Racing League, the points race on Chain Chomper. So we've got the Castle KOM and the Temple KOM pretty much back to back, which was absolutely brutal. And then before that, there's a sprint segment, which introduces us to the first point segment of the race at about the 2 kilometer mark. I'd not done a race on this course before, so I wasn't entirely sure what to expect or how it was going to sort of play out. I did do a recon of the course, a fairly casual ride around the course the night before, and could basically figured out that it was all going to happen and the race was going to play out on those two climbs, mainly the Temple KOM, and the race would probably be sorted out into groups on that first time up the Temple KOM. My plan basically was just to try and maximise my points on the sprint and the Castle KOM. Those were probably my best chances of scoring points, so my plan was sort of to maximise my points on those two segments and then try my best to see how I do on the Temple KOM. If I hang on to that front group, then great, I can try and score some points. If not, just try and hold on to a decent finishing position and hopefully get some decent finishing points for the team. As it's the first race of the season, you're never quite sure how you're going to go or what the teams are going to be like that you're up against. So yeah, just wanted to get a decent result, decent start to the season basically. The lead into the sprint was all downhill, so in this section, I'm just trying to sit in the first half of the group. Although I'm not too bothered about being further back. At this point, we're carrying so much speed, it doesn't really matter too much where you are. But certainly, as we get closer to the sprint, I want to be around the first half of the pack and then sprint through the group, carry the speed of the group and from the downhill and hit that at the start of the sprint as hard and as fast as I possibly can and carry that speed all the way to the sprint banner basically. So I open up about 2 kilometers to go with about 100 meters to the start of the sprint, and it's just full gas, hard as I can go, see what happens and hopefully get some points. So I think I hit about 950 watts on the sprint and managed to get up to 4th fastest through, and I think I got 5th or 6th across the line. So yeah, a good start to the race, getting some points in early, and now it's just a case of getting ready for the Castle KOM and getting ready for a 4-minute effort basically on the Castle KOM. It's a fairly relaxed lead into that one, so just trying to draft and recover and not waste any energy and recover from that sprint effort. So I've just skipped ahead to the lower slopes or lower section of the Castle KOM, just crossing this bridge now. I want to be near the front at this point. I have drafted for most of the flat section at the very bottom of the Castle KOM, but I want to be at the front just in case any moves go. There is a rider up the road who's dropped 7.5 watts per kilo, and if he can sustain that on this climb, then fair play. But I'm not going to try and chase him down because I don't have that power to chase him. I'm just going to try and get as many points from this group. I do have the anvil power up, and I actually do use it on this climb because it adds 50 kilos, but only on downhill sections. So my plan is to use that, try and recover, but also use it to maintain my position on these downhills. And it actually works quite well because I sort of sit at sort of 200 watts for bits, and I end up staying in the top sort of 10 positions. So that works out quite well. And then there's a section coming up on this KOM where it's sort of 6% for 400 meters. So I just want to be near the front going into that section because I have a feeling that there might be attacks that go on that bit, riders trying to go long for the points for the Castle KOM. So I've just rolled a little bit further ahead. We're on this section of 6% on the Castle KOM. Again, I'm pushing to the front mainly to just watch for any long range attacks. I don't really want anyone going clear because I'm I'd rather try and sprint from the group for the points. That's where I think I can get the most points rather than going long. But if someone goes, I want to follow. But no one does, so come over the top and just try and wait until the right moment to sprint, which, having done the recon, was about this point here, coming through these zigzags. I reckon tried to start sprinting. I mean, I could only manage about 550 watts really, because I was already close to my maximal heart rate at 191, 193 BPM, but that seemed to be enough. I managed to get, was it third fastest time and about fourth or fifth across the line. So that was a pretty good result on the Castle KOM, but I am slightly worried that I've burnt one or two too many matches before the Temple KOM, and whether I'm actually going to be able to recover enough to set a decent time and stay with the front group on the Castle KOM. Sorry, not Castle KOM, Temple KOM. So as we get closer to the Temple KOM, I'm struggling. I have not managed to recover at all. My heart rate's still at 180. I'm trying to not do too much work, but the group is actually getting away from me, and so I end up having to actually put in quite a substantial effort just to close up to the front of the group. Here I'm going 430, 440 watts just to get to the front of the group, and that's a match that I really don't need to be burning at this point just to catch up to the front of the group. And I sort of pay for that a little bit and I have to back off. And I'm really determined at this point to try and stay with the front group. And so I go again to try and stay with them. And we haven't even actually crossed the start of the timed climb yet. And we're just about to cross it on that red sign on the road. I'm doing sort of 380, 390 watts. And I sort of pull the plug a little bit. I just decide, you know what, today I don't have the legs to stay with that front group. If I carry on at that power, I'm just going to blow myself up. And that's not really what I want to do. You know, some days that's just how it goes in bike racing. You just don't have the legs. So I make the decision to take my foot off the gas and try and recover a bit more. And there's one point where I do sort of consider just cruising in and taking the points I got from the sprint and the Castle KOM and just deciding, you know what, that's enough. But I actually decide to start riding my own tempo and trying to maintain my position, or at least trying to make my way back up the group, because I reckon there might be some riders who have overexerted themselves at the beginning of this climb and they're actually going to fall back to me if I sort of maintain a steady tempo. So I'm sort of looking at 4.5, 5 watts per kilo, just to try and make up a few places and actually achieve a higher finishing position rather than just cruising around at sort of zone 2 for the rest of the race, which, I mean, I could have easily done, but I decided that probably wasn't the best way for me to race. And also, you know, it seemed like a bit of a waste to do that, having put such a hard effort in on the sprint and the Castle KOM. So we're coming up towards the Temple KOM banner, and actually riding at my own tempo, not worrying too much about being dropped from that front group, has actually worked quite well. I managed to pace myself back up to 21st position when I sort of got dropped from that front group. I was down in 37th or something like that, so gained a fair few places, although kind of in hindsight it may sound a bit counterintuitive, but looking back, I probably should have eased off a bit closer to the top of this climb, because as a result of sort of pushing on quite a bit, I've kind of left myself isolated going into the descent. And in Zwift, you descend in a group, you descend so much faster. The momentum of the group just carries so much more speed than an isolated rider. And I also significantly underestimate the power of the anvil power up on this race. Not that I know who's got one, but I didn't expect it to be as as good a power up as it was. I knew it would be quite useful on the descent, but I kind of thought that if someone dropped an anvil, if I sprinted, I'd be able to hold on to that wheel. But that definitely wasn't the case in this race, and I found out the hard way. We're not far from the descent now, and this rider in front of me is going to use his anvil, and the gap's just going to completely open up exponentially, and I'm going to try and sprint to get back on, and he just keeps on pulling away from me, and I was not expecting that to happen. I definitely underestimated how good the anvil was. As you can see here, he just gets away from me, and he's got a few seconds on me in the space of a few seconds, basically. And then another rider comes past me, and there's nothing I can do. It's pretty frustrating, really. But you know, that's the gamification of Zwift, and that's something you just have to kind of deal with, or learn how to race against it to an extent. So that leaves me a bit isolated on the descent. So I'm just trying to back off and hope that a group comes back to me. As you can see from the mini map, there's small groups all over the road at this point. So I'm just hoping that I can catch on to one of them and then sit in with them and recover for basically the rest of this lap. So I've rolled the race footage forward a bit to basically the second sprint. I managed to get into a group that on the descent, and we formed basically the third group on the road. There's about 10 or 15 of us at this point, and there's another group that's about 6 or 7 seconds ahead of us, and we come through the sprint now, and a couple of the riders in our group do actually go for the sprint, which did surprise me a little bit. I'm not sure if they were sprinting for the points or to cross the gap, but in a way it sort of helped our group, because them sprinting accelerated our group. A couple of other riders started to push harder, and we got the gap down to that group in front, group 2 on the road, to about 4 seconds. At this point I'm thinking I might as well push on and try and close this gap. I hadn't initially planned. I had seen the gap was around 10 seconds, and I hadn't planned earlier. That is, I hadn't planned to use up matches to close the gap. I was quite happy in that third group, but once it got down to under sort of 5 seconds, I thought I might as well close this gap, give me the best opportunity to maximize my finishing points. So I do burn a match or two just getting across, but having just done that descent, I'm fairly recovered and fairly comfortable using that match to get across. Now we're sort of starting the approach to the Castle KOM, and at this point I'm kind of glad that the front group is away, because I don't really want to hit the Castle KOM and go full gas up there to try and fight for first across the line points. So I'm just hoping that this group takes it relatively steady up the Castle KOM, so that we can then all fight it out for the finishing points on the Temple KOM and have a good battle on that climb. So I've skipped ahead again to the just after the Castle KOM, or the lead into the Temple KOM. As I said, this group kind of took it relatively, actually not relatively easy. We had a reasonable pace up the Castle KOM, but it wasn't so hard that I burnt any matches or felt like I was wasting energy on the Castle KOM. We're just about to head towards or hit the Temple KOM, and I actually have just before this I decided I was going to do a last minute bike swap onto the gravel bike. I figured I might as well give it a shot. I knew that the gravel bike would be faster up the climb. I struggled on the climb last time. I'll give it a shot, see how much of a difference it makes. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. So go for the bike swap, and it's not my best bike swap in the world. I probably did it in the wrong place. I should have stayed in the draft for longer, waited for the group to hit the steepest section of this gravel section just before the climb, which is about 10%, which is coming up not too far away now, and I should have waited till that point when they were going slowest in the group to start my bike swap, because then the sort of time lost to that group would have been absolutely minimized, because they would have been traveling the slowest and I would have maximized my draft in the group. I also panicked a little bit. I wasn't sure which bike I was going to use, So I was just trying to find the first gravel bike I found, and luckily that was the Canyon Grail. But I did a bit of faffing around in the garage trying to find it. Interestingly, the rider that's just dropped that feather, we both did a bike swap and crossed the start of the KOM line at the same time. So I didn't actually realise this, but we were actually fighting head to head for what would be the second place of fastest through for this climb. But I wasn't really paying attention to that. I was just focused on my own effort, trying my best to close up to that group that I had just sort of self-dropped myself from by doing that bike swap, and trying to take maximum advantage of being on the gravel bike. I was setting a pretty decent pace. I mean, sort of 350 to 390. My best sort of 5-minute power is around 400 watts. So this was, up there with pretty close to best 5-minute power efforts, which was pretty tough going, given that I was already 22 kilometers into the race. But I figured I might as well leave it all out on this climb and just absolutely go for it. I've got nothing to lose, so absolutely drop the hammer, try my best to maintain a consistent but hard power, and just try and pass as many of these riders as I could. And I did catch up to them pretty quickly, quicker than I actually anticipated. I'm already on the back of the group that I was originally in at the start of the climb, and working my way up through the group. And every time I pass a rider, that's just extra sort of like motivation for me. Every time I see another rider to try and catch up to, I'm just like, right, let's get to that rider. And then once I get past that rider, let's get to the next one. Let's just keep on going. Because in my head, I'm thinking each rider that I pass is extra points that I'm gaining. I know that's not necessarily the case, because obviously after a certain number of finishing positions, it's sort of grouped. So like positions, I think 10 to 15 is a certain number of points. But either way, I just was like determined to chase as many riders as I could, and use each one of these riders as sort of skipping stones to the next one. And we're just about to come up to about just gone past 1 kilometer to go. And again, not necessarily realizing it, but that rider that started the climb at the same time as me is just in front of me now. And I start pushing on the power, not because I'm trying to hunt him down, well, I kind of am, but mainly because I know that once I get over this gravel section and hit that wooden bridge, it starts to ease off, and I can sort of recover a little bit. I actually go past that rider just now, actually. But I'm just trying to get over onto this wooden bridge section and let the gradient ease off, and hopefully I can ease off a little bit, because my legs, my lungs, everything is absolutely burning right now. I've got very little left in the tank. If anything, I'm running on absolute fumes. And this rider does come past me, and I'm not necessarily thinking I want to beat him so I can set the fastest time. I'm thinking I want to beat him because I don't want to finish 15th. I want to finish 14th. So he starts to pull away from me, and I get a little bit worried, start to go a little bit harder, but I really don't have very much left. I'm trying to hold something back for a bit of a sprint. From the recon that I did, I know that once I get round this sort of longish U-bend, or this double left-hander, I need to start sprinting. So I start opening up and start trying to put down a sprint. And I actually managed to get past him just before the line. And I don't know why I didn't use my aero power up. I think I was in such a haze at this point, I didn't even realize I had a power up. But yeah, managed to get past him just before the line and got 14th, which was, I didn't think I would be able to get that position. That once I did the bike swap, I thought 14th. I was hoping for like 20th or early 20s in terms of finish position, but 14th was surprise. And as a result, I think I got the second fastest time at the Temple KOM by doing that time swap. So not only did I get great finishing points, but also FTS points. So looking at the overall results, it was actually a great result for our team, Coalition Ethereal. We got promoted to the B2 division for this season, so first time racing in B2. Wasn't necessarily expecting to finish second in our first race, if I'm being honest. So yeah, that was a great result. And on a personal note, didn't expect to get 64 points. I think that FTS second place on the Temple KOM was a huge result. And actually, it's a good thing I sprinted and beat Griffin to the line, because he was only half a second behind me. So it just goes to show you got to fight for every position, because you never know what points you might be getting your team. Could be quite significant. So yeah, that basically covers that race. I will be doing another video analysis of my race on the second points race of the ZRL, which was Innsbrucker Ring, so 4 times up the dreaded leg snapper. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please subscribe to the channel. As I said, I'll try and do a video of the Innsbruck race, and also I'm planning to do a little video on a guide on how to do a Zwift team time trial. So yeah, thanks very much guys, and have a great day.